Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are having a fantastic day. So in today's video, as you can tell by the title, we'll be talking about a very large and powerful winter storm that will be coming across the United States in the next few days. Now this thing's actually already well underway. It's occurring right now across the western United States. There are winter storm warnings across a good portion of the mountainous areas in California, Utah, and areas elsewhere in the southwest. But this thing really is gonna reach its maxima across the Midwest and the plains, and this is where we could have a pretty strong to concerning severe weather outbreak across a large area. Look how big that enhanced area of severe weather is. That's a very large area. I would not be surprised whatsoever if there will be a moderate issued across at least most likely Iowa and Missouri initially when those storms develop. And you could see that even if there isn't a moderate, the amount of people impacted by this is in tens of millions there. So that is one risk, and that will be occurring mainly on Thursday and Friday, mainly Friday. But then the other risk is just a potential very heavy snow across portions of Minnesota and into North Dakota and into Wisconsin, Nebraska. And of course, strong southerly winds increasing fire danger across the south central here plains and into portions of the southwest here. So a lot of things to watch for, and we will start talking about this because, this thing is really not that far away, and it's beginning to, if you will, show itself on the weather models here. So let's look at the GFS first. This is a very good model. It's one of the ones I use along with the European. You guys know that if you watch the channel. And do note that right now we aren't seeing much, right? But as we really quickly get into tomorrow, and especially tomorrow in the afternoon, notice we see very quick warming. We have a high pressure here across eastern United States that is diverting some of its wind from the south. We have a strong low pressure, so it's pretty much a strong alleyway. Very characteristic for a strong spring storm. This is very not unusual. However, what makes this a little bit more, concerning is, just the sheer strength of this. You can see it's barely coming out of the Rockies, and it's already 989 millibars in low pressure. It doesn't do too much strengthening, so but it doesn't have to. The winds are still very, very strong, and you can see that we already see showers and storms breaking out midnight into the overnight into Friday. So this looks already pretty intense. Notice pretty heavy snow here in the northern side, Minnesota, Minneapolis, starting off with the rain, though you will transition into some heavy snow, which will be occurring across the Dakotas through the day on Friday. And a big threat comes right here when this low pressure intensifies very rapidly. Notice as a cold front wrapped right through there into Texas, and a warm front allowing that rain essentially to occur way into the Canadian border, which isn't unusual into late March. But notice that as the system speeds away, so does the severe weather threat with it. And here is where we're really concerned about that 1 through 7 to 10 p.m. time frame on Friday is where we'll have to be looking out for some very severe storms. There will most likely be a line that forms here. You can't really see the line that clearly on a model like this, or sorry, on this filter that I have. So for this, let me go into radar option here, and you can see a bit more clearly all this precipitation that's going to be out ahead of this. But also, once the system intensifies, that line of storms that develops, you can see it could come in maybe 2 or 3 waves. But on 7 p.m., this is what the GFS thinks it will look like. Very, very heavy snow across Minnesota area and into North Dakota, and you can see very strong low pressure, very strong winds on either side of this. Not even a thunderstorm winds, just system winds. But you can see once the storms push through, again, the system kind of collapses in on itself, doesn't speed off towards the north. It does move towards the north and east, but you can see that a lot of this cold air kind of filters in behind it, and those winds combined with the strengthening high pressure here across the central U.S. could be resulting in a period of very, very strong winds for a good portion of the United States here after this system. So that is also something to keep in mind. That will mainly occur on Saturday for a lot of folks, and into the day on Sunday as you move eastwards. Total accumulated precipitation is kind of useless to look at, especially in a thunderstorm event, but you can see that the heaviest will be centered out where it's consistently falling with that snow and rain across Wisconsin, Minnesota, and whatnot. Also where this cold front potentially slows down or comes in several waves across the south here, and maybe into Ohio, Pennsylvania, with all that precipitation out ahead of this main system on Thursday and into Friday. Total snowfall, something I'd much rather show you with probably more conviction. You can see that we have in Minnesota and North Dakota picking up pretty good amounts of snow. Again, these aren't going to be 100% accurate. This is just one model. I'll show you the National Weather Service and what they think will occur, but nonetheless, with such an intense system and such heavy precip rates, there will be several areas that pick up quite a bit of snow. Wouldn't say monster in terms of the snowfall accumulations, but put together with the severe weather and whatnot, this thing is definitely a doozy. And again, here is the threat for tomorrow. So tomorrow, Thursday, really not that big. A little bit across the northern plains here and across Oklahoma, the whole state, almost all of it, and into northern Texas, extreme northern Texas, and into southeastern Kansas. But again, the big day is on Friday. Not only do we have a massive marginal risk, right? I mean, you could see that's, I guess, if we didn't have an enhanced and slight, that covers a massive area. But you can see it gets worse and worse as you get towards kind of where the center of this thing will be exploding. And again, the low pressure will be situated right here, the warm front, cold front, and this again will be mainly occurring throughout the midday Friday and into the evening hours. I do also want to note that for the long range, next Tuesday, there is already another area of severe weather potentially across some similar areas, so that is definitely something we will have to watch for. Notice the National Weather Service doesn't have much in terms of advisories or warnings. I mean, for severe weather, usually that you don't have as far-reaching advisories as you do for winter storms. But do note that there are some wind watches, wind advisories that will be continuing to trend as winter storms or like this usually bring in some very strong winds, and this one will be will not be the exception. So if you look at Minneapolis, they do have a snowfall graphic. Again, the heaviest seems to be falling north of the city. However, you can see that potential for 6 or more is definitely medium, at least for the Twin Cities, with obviously higher across northern Wisconsin there, and into portions of South Dakota and western Minnesota. Still, it's a massive system. I'm sure you guys aren't, completely baffled by this. Minnesota does see some of its largest systems in March and April. At least historically. Notice that in terms of what the European model shows, let's go and show you this one. So the European model is another good model. I would say it's probably even better than the GFS. So there's that system right now occurring across the West, right? If you live across these areas, this thing won't really be anything too particular. It really starts becoming extreme across the central United States here. Again, you can see all this precipitation streaming forward on the day, late Thursday into Friday, and then finally this thing blowing up. Again, there will be some very heavy snowfall rates of this across South Dakota. Again, where exactly this sets up is a little bit uncertain. Notice a severe weather threat really ramps up through the day on Friday and into late Friday into Saturday. We have a powerful line of storms that's going to be moving through. Main threat, I would say, is winds. They will definitely be strong, though tornadoes and hail, especially further north where there's more cold available, cold air, because the thermal profiles are just more adapted to April type weather. Hail will be a lot easier to produce. The storms don't have to be as severe to produce hail as they would have to be in the summertime. That's why you often see hail and even a moderate strong storm in the springtime or early springtime. As with this thing, notice the snow again, pretty thin band, but it is very heavy, and this will cover a lot of areas with some decent amounts of snow. And notice it kind of folds in on itself, right? So the northeast, southeast, you guys still pick up on that precipitation and rain mainly on the day, late Friday and early Saturday. It doesn't look like it will be massive severe weather threats, especially obviously for the northeast, though there could be some obviously heavy rain from that. Notice that moves away, and regarding the long range, it looks as if there could be even bigger, much more massive snow event for the northern plains, but also a pretty nasty severe weather event for Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. So we're not going to really see a break with these storms, and that is definitely something we'll have to watch for. In terms of total snowfall, what the European model shows from this system, the one that's going to be occurring now, you can see similar to what the GFS, a little bit further south of those snowfall amounts, so favoring maybe the Twin Cities or maybe Green Bay even getting in on that. Notice though, Marquette, Rhinelander, you guys would be seeing quite a bit of snow from that. I would easily say up to a foot, if not more. And especially here is also an area that could see quite a bit, but it will be a little hard to predict, as that's when that system still isn't too strong, and it will be going under an intensification process. And usually when that happens, storms or the models do it pretty. It's hard to predict how exactly a storm will behave when it's rapidly intensifying. So notice this is definitely something they probably address here, the level of uncertainty across these areas, and yeah. So locally heavy rain, that will be probably out ahead of this system, and then followed by that snow. So again, a lot of precipitation as well is not too good for these areas, as I've already seen a decent amount here. And yeah, that's basically all I wanted to cover. Just give you a brief rundown of where the severe weather threat looks to be the highest. And I could show you a model like the HER It is a model that goes out to 48 hours. It's a high range one, but I'll mainly be showing you this tomorrow as it's still a little too far away, the system. You can see that by tomorrow we will see some rain and snow developing across Minnesota, Wisconsin late in the day, some snow. So if you live across Duluth, northern central Wisconsin, don't be surprised to see some heavy snow tomorrow at night. But that is out ahead of this, and you can see that behind this, some areas that saw snow a few hours earlier might be seeing some pretty heavy rain. And again, there will be a band of showers and storms moving through Illinois, Wisconsin, Indiana, especially into Ohio, Michigan, and Kentucky here as this thing starts intensifying. And this isn't even part of, like, I guess, the main system. It's kind of this warm level of action and warm air of action. And you can see that could still produce quite a bit of heavy rain into Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, and what's not. And again, that's not really severe. It's just some moderate rain. You could hear some rumbles of thunder, and look how strong those southerly winds are. So you can see any showers that do develop or storm clusters will be pretty quick moving, and Friday is when some of these could really start picking up some severe characteristics. So just through this time frame, total snowfall, you can see again, not that much yet. The HERD model only goes out to 48 hours, and total accumulated precipitation again centered towards the areas where we see that heavy snow and rain. Out ahead of this, again, warm level of action, and across Ohio and Pennsylvania, where we could also see up to half an inch, if not more. In the longer range, let's take a look at a model like the NAM 12KM. You could see that it quickly shows this thing intensifying, right? So boom, boom, there's that powerful cold front, very heavy snow occurring at this point. Still, bands of rain across Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia, so that's going to add up in terms of accumulations for rain. And then you can see the severe weather threat dwindles, though you could still see some powerful storms into these areas, without a doubt, and some very, very strong wind at the backside of this, which is growing increasingly concerning, as these could, again, they're not severe thunderstorm winds, but combined with some, even some snow falling, this could result in some nasty conditions. And some of these you could see MSLP estimated winds are 20-30 knots, so gusts could easily reach 40 miles per hour. Non-thunderstorm event gusts, which could cause some damage. So that is definitely of concern. And yeah, that's basically all I wanted to cover. Hope you guys are a bit more prepared. Again, if you live in these areas where we have this enhanced, that is definitely somewhere where you should also be taking precaution. Again, main threat is winds most likely, but tornadoes and hail are not out of the question. And as with any severe storm event, lightning is obviously something we can't, just put under the carpet, even though it's pretty easy to. When you have threats like tornadoes to deal with, but lightning is, always kills people, so that is definitely something to watch for. And you can see it's a massive area: Memphis, St. Louis, Des Moines. And I'll give you an update tomorrow as well. Obviously, I believe there probably will be a moderate issue. If not, it doesn't matter. The sheer amount of people that will be impacted by this still makes this a pretty incredible event. And in the long range, things look active. Again, as I said, Tuesday of next week and Wednesday, there could be another event of severe weather out ahead of a massive system that could be dropping even more snow across the northern plains. And if you look at this, the European model, some of these amounts here are incredible. It's good, I guess, if you will, for the snow that will melt into spring for the farmers and crops. But anyone that has cattle and whatnot ranching, these snowfall amounts are a little too uncomfortably high. And you can see, unfortunately, the GFS shows pretty similar amounts. Different area, but still pretty similar amounts. And in the long range, it adds on even more. And you can see that the 18 ones in the most recent model run shows more across Kansas here. That would actually be good during a very bad drought here. But again, whether or not this happens remains to be seen. If you look at what the GFS shows here, in the long range, so obviously we have this first system, right? Powerful beast moves through. Then we have that second one. Again, it could be equally as powerful, especially on its snow side. It could be a lot more impressive. And then what the GFS does, it starts building on its third system that potentially drops a lot of precipitation here. Classic kind of Colorado low, tons of precipitation maybe for areas like Colorado and Kansas and Nebraska. That'd be pretty beneficial in a pretty bad drought here, especially across the plains. Whether or not that happens remains to be seen, though. So let's not get too caught off there. And you can see that the system kind of doesn't really do much more. Later on, the GFS just kind of makes it go off coast. All right, well, that's basically it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you on the next episode. See ya. Bye.